Welcome to yet another edition of the Amazing Race Canada Recap Podcast from the UR Team Number Facebook group. My name is Michael Harmsdon, and I am joined, as ever, by the one guy who wouldn't like to get a Motorola message from Led Macintosh. It's Logan Saunders.
Good morning.
Good morning, Canada.
Find the key, find the treasure, I'll say.
Well, last week you promised everyone that we'd be making Treasure Hunters references, and we didn't make a single one, so, starting as we mean to go on, and there will be another one. If you want to get in contact with us during the next hour, you can post comments on the video if you're watching on YouTube. There's a Q&A on the Google Plus page. You can tweet us using the hashtag YetAndCast, which you can see whenever I speak, or you can get in contact with us on the Facebook group, which is linked in the video description down below. Another good episode, I think. I mean, I said this in one of the groups last night. Australia 2 is fast coming, getting... I might actually get dethroned by the end of the season. Canada 2 is doing very, very well, at least creatively to me. It's getting up.
Compared to what Canada did in Season 1, it's a huge difference.
I think the casting's just so much better. I mean, I know we had some pretty good casting last season, but the fact that Tim and Tim won is probably not the best advert for a season of competitive reality TV.
I could see that. Although I was pro Tim and Tim, unlike yourself, but we only have two duds out of the teams that are remaining here.
Yeah, I mean, there's actually one team who I mentioned twice, I think, in my 2 pages of notes today. Because they just were so invisible. Despite the fact that I actually pegged them as winning last week.
Oh, Mickey and Pete were barely mentioned?
Oh, well, I've looked. I was typing up my notes quite quickly because I've been quite busy this morning, and I looked at it and went, I've really not written anything about Mickey and Pete today. Because I actually haven't. I've written like
they sort of did.
two things.
I thought they were supposed to be out.
Yeah. I've written like 2 things in the first 5 minutes, and then that's it. So
I thought they were going to go through all the heroes. Taxi 2 hours outside of Paris.
Yeah, they must have really had trouble with the detour. Everyone else. Yeah, everyone must have had a lot of trouble with the detour if they were that good or that quick to catch up. So we had 3 teams mentioned in the intro. We had Pierre and the Michels. They're still calling them Olympic heroes, which is a little bit offensive compared to last week. Natalie and Megan and Ryan and Rob were the only teams mentioned in the intro. And yet again, the pit start moved to a former location, to Bayeux this time. I know we discussed last week whether the horse detour was a lot closer than the other, and it was, but Bayeux was a lot closer to Asnel, where the next route marker was. So it actually probably balanced out.
Interesting. Yeah, for once, Ryan and Rob stand out in an intro. That's got to be a first for them.
Yeah, only because they were at risk of getting eliminated. And teams needed to take a train to Paris and travel by taxi to the Arc de Triomphe, where they will find their next clue, and they have €150 for this leg of the race.
What is the exchange rate for euros to dollars now? I know you still use pounds, but
to pounds it is about 1.1, I think. I'm just gonna get up Exy and it'll tell me.
Yeah, Google's really good at just telling you.
Yeah, they use
currency exchange, so that's what I use to make money for the wrong currency on the Amazing race.
€1 is 1.44 Canadian dollars. So €150 would be about $215 ish. Yeah, about $215. Your €150 would have been. I know we converted the Hong Kong dollars last time.
Is it Scotiabank dollars or are these Canadian dollars?
These are Canadian dollars, Scotiabank Canadian dollars. Um, and Natmeg decided to actually show some personality this week and scare Pierre and the Michelles at the train station.
Yes, yeah, they were just absolutely frightened them. They must. Where did this come from? Or is this just their personality when it's 3 a.m. and their little robot batteries in their bodies just aren't working quite right? So the human part of them actually comes out.
It's sort of the equivalent of Julie Chen doing the Ice Bucket Challenge and short circuiting at the Big Brother election last week, which I've still not watched because I refuse
Nice.
to acknowledge it. Um, so Natalie and Megan, Pierre and the Michelles,
I
and
hate Frankie.
oh, don't get me started on Frankie Grande. Mainly because the producers will probably get an idea and pair him up with another annoying YouTube, social media mogul, and put him on the Amazing Racing future.
Mogul, yes, like P Diddy is a mogul, and then Frankie clumps himself in with P Diddy.
He's a social media
And his
mogul.
sister is bigger than JB.
Just as a point, if you have not seen the Zach and Frankie fight from a couple of weeks ago off the live feeds, it is amazing. It's the point where Frankie admits who's married to, who's related to. That's next week. Who he's related to, and it is the most completely unaware thing I have seen ever from the live feeds. It's quite impressive because he'll
probably say that he's married to
yeah, there's one moment in next week's
somebody more fans than Jesus.
Yeah, there's one moment in next week's Amazing Race Canada that I was tipped off to thanks to Composer Mark C on Twitter, and I think if you look at my Twitter, you'll see what my reaction was to it when I found out. But holy God, what are Suki and Jinder's parents going to say next week?
Oh.
Yeah, I know we'll get to that. But if that is the return of my favourite fast forward that any Amazing Race has ever done, Amazing Race Canada 2 is going to be like top 2 seasons ever for me. So Natalie and Megan, Pierre and the Michelles, and Mickey and Pete are all on the first train, and that leaves Suki and Jinder and Ryan and Rob on the second train, arriving 1 hour later. Did you notice the departure times this week as well? I know we looked.
Do you notice Mickey and Pete? Do you notice that Mickey and Pete exchanged their words?
No.
Mickey and Pete said they were jazzed and not stoked. They have a thesaurus.
Well, to be fair, Mickey has never been on a train before.
Yes. Or is it
Bless
Pete?
No. Don't get that discussion started again from last week. Only we could spend 5 minutes debating who was who, despite the fact that they have worn T-shirts saying "I'm Mickey and I'm Pete" before.
Yeah. You never know. It could be. That's not enough.
Poor Suki and Jinder as well, I must say. They were 1 minute behind Mickey and Pete last week, and they ended up being an hour behind Mickey and Pete thanks to that. Again. Yeah, the departure times this week were Natmeg at 2:20.
Oh yeah, it was too.
Yeah, Natmeg were 2:26 a.m. Pierre and the Michelles was 2:42, and then Mickey and Pete 3:36, Suki and Jinder 3:37, 4:14, and then Ryan and Rob were 6:11. So they were basically 4 hours behind Natmeg, which is quite impressive.
They did get a little lost, eh?
Yeah, they really did. But trains are all catching up point.
Yeah, well, it's not as much as other weeks where a plane equalizes everybody.
Yeah, true.
Here, they only got to be in a virtual tie with two teams.
And
Shows
once,
you how much the Olympians are better than them by being ahead of them by over 4.5 hours just in one leg.
yeah, at the end of the season, I might actually just tot up how much Natalie and Megan have been ahead of everyone else because it's a ridiculous amount now.
Hmm.
Because they smoked through the roadblock at the end of this episode as well. It was about an
Yep.
hour and a half there. But once teams made it to the Arc de Triomphe, they had to then make their way to the Place du Canada and find their next clue in the Garden of New France, which I have never heard of.
And the twins discuss their betrayal of Alain and Audrey.
Yeah.
Turns out the Quebecois hate the Quebecois as much as other people in Canada hate the Quebecois.
Well, as I know I discussed last week, the French hate the Quebecois as much as the English hate the French.
Yeah,
Which is
sounds
a lot.
about right.
So
I like how the twins as if Pierre and Michel and the Michels have been separatists. Or everyone separate sceneries, Canada.
they basically were the the Quebecois are France is France basically in terms of everyone hating them. We had our Suki and Jinder crowning moment of awesome at this time as well, with Suki opening a car door on a bollard and then trying to speak to the taxi driver in Spanish again.
Yeah, and then being corrected on their pronunciation of Arc de Triomphe.
Yeah, I do love watching out for Suki and Jinder's crowning moments of awful every week.
And this is the only team that's been to more than a few countries. They've claimed to have visited over 20 countries.
Yeah, 37, I believe it was, that they claimed in there. And
they're still singing Spanish. Multiple infuriated with them. Classic.
To be fair, I don't think they've been to Europe much.
You would think that's where you would get the 20 country count, though, because if you just drop yourself in the middle of Germany and then go within like a 700-kilometer radius of Germany, you can rack up 20 countries right there.
Yeah, you probably could, actually. I know they've done a lot of travelling in Asia. They've definitely, Jinder claims on Facebook to live in Thailand now. I know Suki was involved in Bollywood.
Natalie Glebova follows him on Twitter.
Yeah.
Did you notice that?
Who?
Natalie Glebova, the woman who quit Amazing Race Asia 3, she's Thai Canadian, I know. And yeah, Jinder follows her on Twitter and vice versa. So somehow they know each other.
Yeah. Well, there's obviously a Thai Canadian bond somewhere. Yeah, Suki was involved. I think she was like top 6 in Bollywood Idol or something. So they've done a lot of traveling in Asia, definitely. But I've got a feeling they haven't been to many French-speaking countries apart from, Canada.
Well, it depends what part of Canada you're going to. If you're here on the West Coast, we don't really qualify as French-speaking too much.
Yeah, to be fair, around Vancouver, Chinese is probably the second language, isn't it? So, given how big China is in Vancouver.
Mandarin, Punjabi, and Japanese are all much, much more popular than French. And we also have a very strong German and Ukrainian foundation here in BC as well.
See, kids? Geography lesson there. So once they found the Garden of New France, which was 5 minutes away from the Arc de Triomphe, Vicky and Pete, they were faced with the warning of a double U-turn and a detour, which is haute couture or plat de jour. Did haute couture bring back memories of season 10's final leg? That detour in France, in Paris, actually.
No, I just brought up memories of UFC at the Detour.
I think haute couture was obviously meant to be the harder detour in a U-turn leg, because the previous U-turn leg was Hong Kong, and the shopping task with Master Chief himself, was obviously a lot harder than the other one was, the Kung Fu one. So in Haute
Yeah, I think
Couture,
Tyler and James would have blown
well, yeah, they're
through
used to it with their
the
own films,
Hawk.
aren't they? So in Haute Couture, teams will travel to the Parisian Fashion Academy and replicate a runway look on their mannequin from the example. And in Plat de Jour, teams must search the cafes of Paris for 3 marked chalkboards, order the items marked, and then deliver them to a square and serve them to customers, reciting them in French. Um, so
Yeah,
obviously,
not too hard if you've taken French at all in the education system.
well, think about it. It was croissant, it was charcuterie, fromage, which is easy, café du lait. They really weren't that hard French words, let's be honest.
Yeah, fromage I hear means cheese,
Yes.
so I had a pretty good grasp on this challenge.
Fromage is cheese, charcuterie is the type of meat. It's like cooked meats. Cafe, obviously, you should know that, given that hot drinks are tax exempt in Canada. Um, what else do we have? Croissant, obviously, pretty obvious. What else was there? I think that's about it for the major food groups of Parisian
Yeah,
cafe life. um,
yeah, it was just the three.
yeah, just pastry, meat and cheese, and coffee. Coffee, 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 coffee,
Sounds
coffee.
like the French.
Certainly does. Um, so Nutmeg and Pierre and the Michelles leave Detour in first and second after choosing the obviously easy one. But Suki and Jinder have a
Nelly
little
and
bit.
Megan always use the right detour,
Yeah, they are.
except for surprisingly hockey. Apparently, hockey does them in.
Yeah, they are surprising. That's probably the root of their success. They tend to be not great at finding stuff, but pretty damn good at doing the detours.
The Jet and Cord of Amazing Race Canada.
Yeah, pretty much. I think Jet and Cord had slightly more personality by this point in their first season as well.
Yeah, they had a croissant and it was yellow. I heard.
um,
I'm surprised Project Runway Canada didn't sponsor the other half of the detour, considering all the other sponsorships that we got during this. Like particularly the detour here, we had the teams had to
Scotiabank.
use Scotiabank cards to purchase the 3 items.
Yep.
So there we go.
This is basically a rerun of the unaired fast forward in Thailand in Amazing Race 14. You've got to use your money to buy stuff.
Yep.
Which
Except you're only helping yourself as opposed to people that were in need and were ignored by the cast of Amazing Race 14.
which is still hilarious. um, so they
Well,
then had to
particularly
find
not
the
Jamie.
Centre Pump. I reckon Jamie and Cara would
Mel
have
and
been.
Mike throw up go, even though they.
Yeah, Jamie and Cara would have been hilarious in the orphanage. Just like, here's your stuff, kids. I want my clue.
Yeah.
And they had
Have you ever used a moped in Paris?
no. I knowing the roads around Paris. I know when we did season 24, we discussed how busy the M25 is. From sitting in the back of a car when we're going around the Périphérique, which is the ring road around Paris, you really, really do not want to be do not want to be in any vulnerable sort of vehicle because they drive crazy around
I
Paris.
see.
It is really not a good place to drive or be a passenger. It's stupidly busy.
Even crazier than an Albertan?
Yeah, I'll find out in a couple of weeks, won't I? So once teams completed their
That's true.
chosen detour, they had to head to the Centre Pompidou and find the U-turn board. I think we all knew what was
Yes.
going to be happening here.
I did like that they did a specials 10 minutes earlier on by the place to Canada with the Champlain
I do like
and
the.
then car chase statues. I'm thinking, wheelie them, and they were boring.
I really like the fact that Reality Fan Forum managed to find the speed bump board, but did not know there was a U-turn, despite the fact they were right next to each other, basically. Because the one bit of them going to Paris that I knew was that Ryan and Rob got a speed bump and it was playing accordions. And that was purely because they were pictured standing next to the speed bump board with accordions around them.
Yeah.
So how did they not know about the U-turn? That's what I don't get. Because that is seriously, seriously
I don't
stupid.
know. I was mentally bored. Maybe it was a bit more. Maybe they just suddenly saw it from the other end, so the production board.
Yeah. But Reality Fan Forum basically got a shout out in the speed bump anyway, with them getting images of people taking pictures of Ryan and Rob. So Suki and Jinder had a little bit of trouble lying to Ryan and Rob in the Detour as well.
I don't know where it is, even though I'm holding the exact ones from where we go.
I
don't know. It just I just did a swish and flick, and it's there.
I can sort of I can sort of understand how people aren't big fans of Suki and Jinder, but if you take a step back and look at how ridiculous some of their actions are, how can you not like them? They're basically adorable.
Suki's nickname
because they
is
are
not
so
subtle
stupid
Suki.
at times. No, she definitely lived up to the name of Suki in this leg.
Hey, well, not so much later on in leg, but yeah, and then they spill their coffee too, which was
she was
amusing to see happen.
There was Suki at lying to Ryan and Rob. They were Suki at carrying the coffee, and they were Suki at reciting the French, because they had by far the worst French pronunciation. But the people waiting for the food probably didn't care at that point, because they were probably waiting for hours. And
Danny Glover by saying for everyone to go suck a tree.
Or using an Amazing Race Australia versus New Zealand term, go suck a bag or eat a bag of dicks. I miss Aston and Christie.
Just like Ken Masters from Street Fighter in that Ego Raptor music video.
And left their first detour in 5th, but then didn't know they were U-turned by Pierre and the Michels. But Natalie and Megan decided not to U-turn anyone because it would be poor sportsmanship. Yeah, it was. But yeah, Nat Meg decided not to U-turn anyone because it would be poor sportsmanship. And then Pierre and the Michels obviously decided to U-turn Alain and Audrey because it's been signposted all leg. And Suki and Jinder beat Ryan and Rob to the U-turn board and then U-turn them anyway to give themselves a buffer, which, isn't a bad tactic.
Do you notice that one moment earlier on with Alain and Audrey?
Which bit?
With when they were in the taxi, because they make out with Audrey and then she pushed her and made him get somewhere for this leg.
Yeah, made him look at the maps because he didn't want to get any. He didn't want to go missing.
Yeah, apparently he wanted to trust the taxi driver too much.
Yeah. Well, he obviously knew what was coming later in the leg, as did anyone who read the title of the leg. Or title of the episode.
Definitely.
So Suki and Jinder decide to U-turn Ryan and Rob, and Ryan has a perfectly understated reaction, saying at the Haute Couture Detour, I wish I was pinning it on Suki's skin.
Yeah, that's a bit much. There's a lot of things you can say about a team who U-turned you, but I think a lot of viewers at home would just be disturbed by what you visualize as an act of revenge.
Yeah, I mean, I know they got that Suki and Jinder got a lot of stick when they started doing stupid stuff in Leg One, and with the after the race special, but still don't think anything they've done warrants, trying to make her a human voodoo doll. It's a
Yeah,
little bit
and
much.
poor Judy the mannequin, or Red Judy as I nicknamed her. I mean, she has to take all the aggression that Ryan wants to use on Suki.
Yeah, I think Ryan and Rob are getting a little bit of an unlikable edit actually this week.
Modeling career for Judy, that's her. Well, mannequin career.
Yeah. And once teams decided whether to use the U-turn or not, they must travel to a classic location from the television show Treasure Hunters, Lady Liberty, where they must wash the streets of Paris to find their next clue. I wish.
Yes.
You can tell
I wrote that too, thinking, what? This are Treasure Hunters.
Yeah, you can tell that I've watched Treasure Hunters recently, can't you?
Suki and
As soon as I saw Lady Liberty, I was like, washing the streets of Paris.
Buckets on the streets.
Oh, I would just love a leg of Amazing Race that basically stole entire.
Can you imagine Pierre and Michelle on Treasure Hunters? To detail, they would just be stuck there for days.
Yeah. I'm still disappointed that we didn't get to see Pierre and Michelle do the rock roadblock.
Detour.
Because that would have been amazing.
Where's it Alan and Audrey, or Pierre and the Michelle screwed up on pronunciations?
Yeah, here's the thing. I think if the patrons would have known that they were from Quebec, they probably would have kept saying no to their pronunciation. Because,
yeah, they would have kept saying no, like Magic's father-in-law.
No. And the Pompidou Centre is also the place where we have the speed bump, which, as I mentioned, is Learn to Play Au Clair de la Lune, a French folk song on the accordion.
I wonder if Weird Al's ever played that song.
I think Weird Al's been too busy playing TV themes at the Emmys this week to worry about Au Clair de la Lune.
Good point.
Did you see his
and
performance?
And Mickey and Pete are at Places Canada. Yeah. No, I did not see the Emmys at all.
The only bit I've seen is Weird Al doing the TV themes. It's not his best work, but George R.R. Martin looked like he was chewing a wasp, so it was hilarious to see him get mocked. It was no sports song, shall we say? Your sports.
Yeah, I've heard that's been the worst song off of his album.
Your sports team is soon suffer swift defeat. The fact is so plainly obvious to see. And for some reason,
this is not an Alapalooza podcast. This is an Amazing Race.
It isn't, but Mandatory Fun is an amazing album.
Canada.
And for some reason, Ryan and Rob decided to dub themselves Bryan Adams and Celine Dion, very famous in Canada, when they were finishing up their speed bump. For some reason.
All I can think of when
very famous in Ukraine.
Or Celine Dion is that bit from what I say, oh, I'll give you $20 for $20. I'll give this and Celine Dion tickets, and then Bender says, "Drop the Celine Dion tickets, and we have a deal."
Yeah, I think Celine Dion is basically the female Nickelback. Which makes a lot of money in.
That's an appropriate analogy.
And the Roadblock featured a classic reference to Aaron Carter. Who loves candy? I love candy.
Oh, Aaron Carter, no.
I thought I'd go for Aaron Carter because he's a ridiculous version.
Penny's also a colossal d-bag. A giant, not a giant colossal d-bag, a short little colossal d-bag.
And one team member must recreate a piece of Parisian artwork with the artist standing by, which was actually quite funny, using product placement Mentos. What I would give for Lady Liberty to have just chucked Diet Coke over them.
Not fructose.
Yeah, it actually
I'm dating
wasn't
from the
as
torch, I think.
egregious as it could have been. It certainly wasn't. What, just a river of Diet Coke? It certainly wasn't the worst
Yeah, if you look
product
close,
placement test
that's
that we've
what's
ever
in the
seen in Amazing Race
Columbia
history.
Pictures logo.
What, Diet Coke or Mentos?
The Diet Coke part. Let's see here. Do you think
So,
Spooner has a new nickname? She's now Spoonie. She's Spoonie now. Do you
yeah,
think that she has diabetes at all because of
well,
how much she's commented on her sweet tooth and the fact that she vomited 17 times near the start of the season? You know there's got to be some health problem there.
diabetes. Let's diabetes this. Yeah, let's diabetes this. Um, to quote to quote Parks and Rec. Um, yeah, I had a discussion, quite a long discussion last night with Craig on the Amazing Race 24/7 group um, about whether Natalie and Megan were recruited, because I am 99% sure they are. We have discussed it a couple of times now that they
Well, you even
are
found proof
definitely.
online of it.
Yeah, because Hockey Canada sent the producer sent Hockey Canada an email saying we want a hockey team. Have you got anyone? Megan found out about it, asked Natalie to do it with her. They sent in a video, but they didn't send it into casting. I don't think. I think they send it straight to producers to say, "Here's your hockey team, guys. We're gold medalists."
I
Um,
didn't know Megan was married.
no, neither did I. I thought she was married to science.
Do you think that that her husband is the one that gave her the broken hand?
Oh,
Or no?
we got the domestic abuse route again, are we? Still not the most offensive thing we've ever had on the podcast. Um, so Megan absolutely
Yeah,
smoked.
maybe she's married to Jonathan Baker.
You made at least two Jonathan Baker references in the blog this week as well, didn't you? Or blog yesterday, wasn't it?
Yes, I did. Jonathan Baker's been a lot on my
With
mind lately. Apparently, he's a good role model.
yeah, with dogs being constantly screenshotted as well.
Yes.
Um, so Megan managed to smoke through the roadblock after about 90 minutes of being there, and then she and Spoonie were sent to the pit stop, which is the bank of the River Seine near the.
Spoonie did the roadblock.
I thought I thought I thought Meg did it.
Bring up racers again.
No, I thought Megan did it, but you're probably right. You probably took
Spoonie did
a
the sweet tooth.
lot more extensive notes than me. Oh yeah, she did, didn't she? So Spoonie smoked through the roadblock, and they had to head to the pit stop, which is the bank of the River Seine near the Pont des Arts, also known as the Bridge of Lovelocks, which is a very, very popular Amazing Race location.
Yes, I'm surprised that we got that huge fake out. It feels like, was there an unaired task? Because 99% of the time, if you go to a place where there's lots of locks, chances are you have to grab a key and unlock one of those locks.
Amazing Race Israel has done that exact task when they went to Paris last time. Amazing Race France used it as their first ever task after leaving the start line before heading to Dubai in the first episode. And basically every time they go to Paris now, they have to go to the Lovelock Bridge. It's an absolute requirement, and it usually requires them to unlock an Amazing Race themed lock to receive
But
that
no
next bridge.
reports on it being unaired for this week?
Not that I know of, but I could be wrong. I'd be very surprised because
Because,
it tends to be a roadblock when they do it, and obviously the roadblock was it Lady Liberty, wasn't it?
yeah, unless there's nothing that sponsored the Lovelock task, so they just said, screw it, we're not going to show it on TV then if nobody sponsored it. At least Mentos kicked in a few $100,000 to sponsor this season.
And to annoy the hell out of me when I have to watch it on the CTV website without ad block on. Here's a refresh your mind recap of the very thing I've just watched. Every ad break. So Natalie and Megan won 3 prizes for coming in first. They won flights to Europe in premium economy, $3,000, and most importantly, a kiss from a mime.
Yes, do they get to take the mime home with them?
That'd be hilarious if you get a trip to Europe, but you got to take this mime with you. This randomly found off the street. Ben says he's been to the Lovelock Bridge. It's pretty neat. So hello, Ben. He sent in a question as well, but we'll get to that in a minute.
I don't know if we really need to answer anything from Ben personally.
It's actually it's a pretty good question.
Can we talk about something that I have to absolutely address?
Yes, you can.
From the Masonry Austria?
Yeah, of course.
With screw it. What was it? Oh yeah, their prize. That's the biggest fake out in a prize I've ever heard. Where they say, "You've won 300,000 points to apply," which works to on a business trip to Los Angeles. Like, screw it, in the thousands, and then follow it up with $6. Man, that was just brutal.
I chuckled a lot at that. It was 500,000 velocity frequent flyer points, which they can use on any velocity reward of their choosing. But in leg 1, they gave out it was 2 business class flights to Los Angeles. So that's exactly the same prize, basically.
Yeah.
But why would you use it on a business class flight when you can use it on, say, 3 economy flights? Yeah, that's because business class rewards like that are ridiculously expensive, especially when it's at least a 12-hour flight. Whereas what I would have done in that case is just because you get a lot further for it.
Yeah, I guess the Virgin points just sound more inflated than the yen currency.
Or the Chilean peso.
Or the Chilean peso, yes.
You got your first experience of an actually good intersection this week as well, didn't you, with Amazing Race Australia?
What? I haven't seen this. I've only seen the first half. I've only seen the first half of the 2-hour episode.
Ooh. No. You've not seen the Russia bit yet, then?
No, sadly not. I just know they go to the balance.
I think everyone knew it was going to end in a. Yes, they, as always, they do tend to have a keep on racing leg or a doubled length leg. Wiki seems to think it's a keep on racing leg after in this Russia one. I don't. I'm pretty sure it's a double length leg. And if I am vindicated, I'm going to gloat so much. But yeah, they had a decent intersection. We knew there was going to be an intersection in St. Petersburg because in the season preview how they showed loads of clips for some reason, that had Sally and Tyson standing next to a intersection board as Daniel and Ryan got there, and it looked very, very Russian. So I was like, it's going to be in Russia. But yeah, the intersection
I would like
task
to
was
see Tyson make a video of himself just crunching the intersection board just without effort. I would
um,
just like to see him punch random objects along the race just for my own amusement.
the intersection was for one member of each of the intersected teams to um, go through a laser maze basically and retrieve a jeweled egg, which had a little statue of the next pit stop, which is the Church of the Saviour on Spilled Blood in St. Petersburg. It's actually a pretty cool
Interesting.
intersection, in my humble opinion.
No heavy people hurt their knees while in St. Petersburg this time?
No, not this time. It certainly wasn't the worst use of an intersection in Amazing Race Australia, which of course is my one gripe with Amazing Race Australia too. Anyway, we probably should get back to Canada, really.
Yeah. I had a terrible joke about Alain and Audrey from earlier on in the Detour.
Go on, get on
like I've been trying to avoid saying it because it's just terrible.
Get it over with. Because we're going to be
all
quite
it is just reference, and then the judge judged it, and then said no to the dress. So I said that the judge said no to the dress, and I'm thinking, wow, that's not. It was funny last night, but it's definitely not this morning.
Yeah. So Suki and Jinder redeemed themselves. Suki absolutely smoked the Roadblock, and they came in second, which is their best ever performance. And just following up on the point from last week, if Suki and Jinder, if Suki and Jinder place higher than Ryan and Rob next week, they will get out of the basement of average finally after like 4 or 5 weeks, maybe more than that actually. Because Ryan
and Audrey also spilled the coffee.
Yeah,
she pulled a Suki. She pulled a Suki.
She did. Ryan and Rob have been sucking that much that they are very nearly getting overtaken by Suki and Jinder now.
Yeah, their performance in the Amazing Race is about as good as their performance in Confessionals. Let's put it that way.
Ben also says if Tyson went along punching stuff, he'd immediately apologise and feel bad afterwards for each one, even after the intersection board. So Ben, basically what you're saying is Tyson is Canadian. Because we all know Canada loves an apology. Apart from Pierre and the Michels, they do not apologise.
Well, Pierre and Michel are separate.
Yeah, they're Quebecois, they're not Canadian.
So they do the separatism. Are they really Canadian? I don't know.
So Mickey and Pete somehow got in third. Alain and Ajay came in fourth, and what was that?
The Mentos, it reminds me a lot of Light Brights with the way that it was on the board there.
Yeah.
I'm thinking, oh, that's a real throwback to late 90s toys. Have you ever had a Light Bright?
No, I don't think they made it to the UK. Come to think of it.
Well, it's a bit of a North American thing.
Sounds like
I think. Because, yeah, the Blitz all the time back in my day.
Back in your day? You're only 2 years older than me.
We didn't even have a Super Nintendo, we just played.
And Alain decides to take the opportunity, whilst they're in the City of Love, to propose. So they are now the future Mr. and Mrs. Incomprehensible French Babble.
I thought the best part was easily them
in 5th place, which leaves Pierre. Yeah, yeah. That's only the second time in Amazing Race history I know of that happening. It happened once in Amazing Race 17 as well, but
I see.
It's nowhere near as fun editing wise.
I love that the fourth
have
wall
the edge
was
when
broken.
it comes to a little bit of humour. Also, on that note, The actual editing of the Amazing Race Canada 2, in terms of the graphics on screen, has been awesome. Because any
Yeah,
detour
there's a
like
lot of
this one,
updates.
which requires them to pick stuff up or has a fun graphic, they've actually put the graphic on the screen, and that is really nice to see. It's nice to see them
Hmm.
putting some effort into it.
Yes, I also like they update
Because it,
exactly how teams are doing at each task.
yeah, it does show a sort of acknowledgement of how good this race needs to be,
Hmm.
which is nice to see, especially after season 24. And Ryan and Rob scraped through in fifth, and Pierre and the Michels come in last after spending 8 hours, was it, at the roadblock, if not more?
7 hours and 50 minutes.
Oh god, it was a while.
We have to talk about the interaction at the Roadblock. Yeah, I think the task was designed for it to take so long? But all the teams that had been U-turned
I'm
to
not
interact
sure.
with the U-turn. I think that's why it was intentionally set up to take at least 90
I
minutes or
think,
longer to complete the task.
yeah. I mean, they've been very careful with the U-turns this season, actually, because both times the roadblock has been after the detour when they've used the U-turn, so they can stop me whining about a team getting U-turn and then immediately eliminated because they can't catch up that quickly. Whereas the roadblock in Hong Kong wasn't actually that difficult compared to this week's. It probably was a deliberate thought. We need a product placement task now anyway. Why don't we make it a really hard one? Give people a chance to catch up.
Yeah, it wasn't so much as giving people a chance to catch up. I just think they wanted the interaction and fights to occur at the Roadblock
Yeah,
and for it to happen on screen right when it's all also heat of the moment. They wanted to have them all interact with each other as early as possible after the double U-turn.
I mean, Ryan and Rob were really bitter Betties when they got to see Suki and Jinder.
There's a
Suki,
huge difference in reaction between how Pierre acknowledged Alan and Andre, and then Jinder trying to be friendly from the sideline. I thought, oh, Jinder, that's the worst way to approach this situation. I did nothing wrong at all.
this week's leg was a rare one where both teams on that get double U-turned were actually survived. Actually managed to not screw up that much.
And with
So should
Audrey
we talk
and
about next
Pete
week?
working with each other at the Roadblock, dare we say that this was an accidental alliance?
that term is tainted forever in Amazing Race history now. Uh, I would have been
Yes,
absolutely
it's tainted
crap at that
everywhere in
roadblock
North
had we just played
America,
it out.
even abroad in
It,
Australia. I think they're never going to use that.
yeah, it requires finesse. It requires actually being able to tell colours apart and, partially colourblind.
It requires
Wouldn't have
Michelle
been a
to
good task
not
for me
be
this week.
colorblind. That's what.
Yeah, I'd be absolutely terrible at it because
Do
I
you
am
think
partially
Michelle was
colourblind.
colorblind?
I think it's a good excuse if he wasn't, but he probably doesn't know the English word for colourblind, so. We're in Paris, we've got to make a French border radius.
Oh,
Especially if she wasn't Greta.
you dropped in enough. She's still not.
She's still.
She was not the starter. I am just Hong Kong, and then they went to two places in France. No sight of born Aurelia. This is the greatest injustice since Jodie Winter cast The Amazing Race, Unfinished Business.
If
Ugh.
if there's any justice in the world, Amazing
I even
Race
tweeted. I
Canada.
even tweeted Amazing Race Canada.
Yeah, that's exactly why I deliberately made a French border reference. if there's any justice, Amazing Race Canada 3, when it inevitably happens next year, we'll go to Shanghai, and then we'll have Wu as a task judge, hopefully. Because Alan Wu needs to make it to every Amazing Race franchise.
Yes.
It's a legal requirement.
And they have to make him do the Moose Bucket Challenge.
Oh, but I miss Alan Wu. Monty wasn't really up for many tasks this week, sadly. There wasn't much for him to impress me with.
No, maybe he was just experiencing some ennui or whatever that's called, the whole French Depression thing.
I think it's called being French, actually.
That's a good
next
week,
week,
I get it.
Next week looks ridiculous.
Hold on, we're done with this, yes. We have a slow motion hug.
Okay. Oh yeah, we got the slow motion hug as well. Ben's expressed his delight for a French Bonnerelia reference as well.
Having the slow go hug with my man John Montgomery.
I think it is nice to see Mickey and Pete enjoying themselves now. I don't think they thought they were going to get this far, but it is nice to see them seeming to join the Suki and Jinder club of enjoying themselves.
Indeed. Is this the first time a team survived by doing both sides of a detour and a speed bump all in the same round?
As far as I know, yeah. The international seasons don't tend to have the speed bump. They tend to have mark for elimination, if anything. Because the speed bump
and rarely do we get a
bit of a
U-turn in tandem with the speed bump, right?
Yeah, I'm just trying to think if we've had that before. I'm not as good on my U-turn history as I am on my non-elimination history, actually. Let's see what we can do. Sure, Amazing Race Wiki will know for me. But I don't think we've had...
Powered by Ask.com.
A U-turn and a speed bump. Hey, yeah. Jeeves, I need information. Ask.com, I remember Ask. That was truly a terrible search engine. No, actually, it's not the first time we've had a U-turn and a speed bump in the same leg. Because I know
that.
Yeah, the
Amazing Race 16 has it, I believe, middle of the season.
12 has it as well. Season 12 has the first ever speed bump. And,
right. Ken Vixen.
Yeah. Ken and Vixen U-turn.
The first
try to U-turn Nick and Don, don't they?
We're going to U-turn Rue Wilson.
Yeah, that's not going to happen. Good on Natmeg, actually. Good on Natmeg for realising that if they didn't make it to the U-turn board first, they would be U-turned. Would have been interesting to see what Pierre and the Michelles actually did.
They would have been, definitely. Although Pierre and Michelle probably would have just U-turned Alan and Audrey anyway.
I'm not sure.
Natalie and Megan have won 6 legs now. The record is 9, isn't it?
Record's definitely at least 8. Because Dave shall have it. As far as I know.
Yeah, I couldn't remember if Mark and Wilson got 9 out of 13.
No, 8 they got. 8 is still the record. And Natalie and Megan...
So Natalie and Megan are definitely have more than enough time to get the record.
Yeah, no matter what now, Natalie and Megan will be top of the season in terms of average. Because Alan and Ajay needed to win this leg and the next 4 if they wanted to overtake. As we discussed.
Shows you how dominating the Olympians really have been.
Yeah.
Even with getting a 5th place finish in there, they're still way up there.
Well, Natmeg are currently on 1.75, which is it's not that far off Mark and Rolfson, actually. I think Mark and Rolfson are 1.58, I think it is. Then Alan and Audrey.
1.46.
1.46, sorry. Alain and Audrey are 3.63. And then Pierre and Michelle are third with 4.38. Cormac and Nicole are fourth with 4.4. Mickey and Pete 4.5. Ryan and Rob 5.13. And Suki and Jinder 5.25. So, should we talk about next week? Because it looks to be possibly the most ridiculous next time preview I've ever seen.
Sure, because, all we got is Pierre and Michelle's farewell, and they just talked about the womb in college, so
they got
not much interesting there.
A sort of best-of video as well when they were eliminated, which I was surprised.
They were teary-eyed, that's for sure.
Yeah. So they're actually off to Quebec next week.
Yeah, this was personal. I wrote that in too. They must be the team that probably had the shortest match chats in race history. It probably combines to about 1/10 of how long Suki and Jinder's shortest match chat is, because whenever I picture Suki and Jinder doing the match chat, I just think that they just ramble on and John doesn't even have to ask any prompts. It's just Suki and Jinder talking over each other for 40 minutes. And then they sleep on the mat, and then they wake up, and then they do some more match chat.
John just glazes over.
He starts checking his text messages.
Yeah, John just glazes over. Oh, we've got a Motorola message from Laird here.
Yeah, he plays Text Twist on his phone.
So they're off to... Oh, God. Alain actually lives in Montreal. The curse of Amazing Race is going to strike again, isn't it?
It could. It could.
If they don't win in Montreal, then seriously. And we have Cars and Cheese and what looks to be the return of the best fast forward Amazing Race has ever done. Ever. This is one that you've not come across yet, Logan. But it was one that was actually performed in Vancouver last, and was first performed by in Hat Merot's Lamillion, the Israeli version. It looks like we're going to get the life drawing fast forward.
Interesting.
Yeah.
I'm guessing it's great.
Go to an art studio, get your kit off in front of your partner, then get drawn by a group of people.
Oh, so it's like the mole task.
Yeah. However, Suki and Jinder are involved. For the first time ever, we have a sibling team doing life drawing.
Actually, you need to roll dice to get out of it.
Oh dear God, it's going to be so awkward and so awesome. But yeah, Mark actually tweeted both of us saying, knowing Australia 2 is one of my favourites, I think one test preview next week will really get his attention. And I replied, Mark, don't tweet me when I've not seen it. You've got me excited now. And then a couple of minutes later, oh my God, it's life drawing. Only my favourite one-time fast forward ever. I love the life drawing fast forward because it's ridiculous.
And I cannot wait for the return of Puking Spooner.
Yes!
Puking Spooner is making a return. Can she break 17 piles of vomits? Can she break that record?
If anyone
is she going to go for gold?
If anyone is doing what I'm doing,
that's going to be the most important storyline for next week.
If anyone is doing what I'm doing and watching French Fort Boyard, if they do not include a puke count,
are there under bets?
French Fort Boyard is amazing. I don't speak that much French, but I can still understand most of it. But for certain games, usually when they involve people falling over, they include a count in the corner of the screen of how many times people have fallen over. I think the record for one particular game is, I think it was 19 falls when it involved a turntable.
Was it designed by Paul Asleson?
Oh, it's awesome. I'll try and find it on YouTube to send you afterwards because it's just brilliant. It's the funniest thing ever.
Did Paul Asleson design the count?
Almost certainly. But they tend to have it for like wrestling games and stuff as well. So, I think we're about done, don't you?
Yeah. Maybe they probably don't have too many older females on it.
last week, was it last week or the week before? They had a woman who was 87 years old on it, and then sent her into a really physical game, which was like the meanest thing they could possibly have done.
That does sound like a Paul thing to do.
If you if you watch my Twitter when usually on a Sunday when I can get a copy of Fort Bayard, you'll just see me commenting on it. But a couple of weeks ago, I just went, seriously, they're sending her in to do this challenge. That is like insane. Why? uh, please. But they tend to have classic gross eating challenges like Zerstromong, and last week they had a world champion swimmer who was afraid of snakes, so they sent him into a room that where the ceiling goes down from 7 foot to 2 foot, whilst you're trying to play a game with loads of snakes in it and stuff. It's quite entertaining, really. Anyway, we need to get to Ben's question, really, which was what does Canada 2 have to do to exceed Australia 2 in my mind? And I can sum that up quite easily. Suki and Jinder winning. If Suki and Jinder win, Canada 2 will be the best season ever. Guaranteed. Because the outrage that it will cause will be glorious.
I totally agree with that statement. Anybody else winning would be somewhat of a disappointment at this point.
They're getting such a huge edit, and I'll be quite disappointed if they don't win.
Especially if Ryan and Rob win.
Yeah, I mean, Ryan and Rob's edit did pick up a little bit this week, but purely because they got U-turn and speed bump, I think. I don't think there was any other reason. Oh, Audrey's just like my comment on Amazing Race 24/7.
Nominated and then U-turned.
Yeah, they certainly are going for quite a bland edit for Ryan and Rob, really. Especially as he's supposed to be a sketch comic, for goodness sake. He's supposed to be hilarious.
Yeah, he hasn't said anything that's been a real knee slapper so far this season.
Yeah, I mean, if you run down stuff like all the stuff Suki and Jinder have done, whether it be blocking everyone, blocking everyone in at the start line, or opening a car door in a bollard, or trying to speak Spanish to a French travel agent, or what else have they done? We had the trying to charge the car up. All that sort of stuff, and then you compare it to Ryan and Rob, who've done bugger all, for want of a better term. If Suki and Jinder get eliminated over Ryan and Rob, I'll be so
they even made it playing an accordion sound boring.
Yeah. Well, they didn't really have that much trouble on it, which sucked. So, I think we're just about done, don't you?
Yeah. Well, I pray for the day when we get tough.
So I will send you as many Fort Boyard clips as I can because they're insane and hilarious. And thank you all for watching and listening. We'll see you next Wednesday at the same time for another episode of our Amazing Race Recap podcast brought to you by the UR Team Number Facebook group. And don't forget you can join Ben, Michelle, and Eamon to recap the Amazing Race Australia versus New Zealand from 10 p.m. AEST, which is 5 a.m. PT and 1 p.m. BST next Wednesday for the. As far as I know, it's just one leg next week, but they are going to Siberia. So, see you next week.
See you in Montreal.
Au revoir.